You're listening to Ages and Stages, where womanhood gets real across every decade. 3 women, 3 life stages, 1 honest conversation. Each episode, we break down one topic, from relationships to career, to motherhood and identity, and how it evolves across the decades. If you've ever wondered whether you're the only one figuring things out, you're not. This is Ages and Stages.
Welcome back to Ages and Stages, where we talk about the honest truth, real life, real struggles, and everything in between. And we're your hosts. I'm Wendy.
I'm Lindsey.
And I'm Emma.
And we're so glad that you're here back with us again today. And we have a returning person. We have Angie here today with us. And so welcome back, Angie, to a little bit of podcasting.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Great. Well, today we're going to talk about something that every woman thinks about at some point in her life, success. But what does success actually mean? Is it money, a career, family, peace? The interesting thing is that our definition often changes as we move through the different stages. Anybody have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I just kind of agree with what you said. I feel like my idea of success has changed through the different phases of my life. And, it's depending on what my goals are. That's my idea of success, is accomplishing those goals.
I think for me, it's changed a lot in the past, 10 years or so. Just getting through school and getting just some independence and just kind of being a new adult to the world. There's a lot of pressure to be successful just in a career and make a name for yourself, that kind of thing. And now my focus is more towards being successful for my family and being a good mom and just being a good person to myself. I mean, obviously a career is important to me still, but it's not as heavily on my mind as it used to be. So mine has definitely shifted more of like a family and more of a peace. Like my version of success is finding peace in myself and my family. What about you guys?
Angie, what are your thoughts?
Well, I kind of agree with Lindsey. I think there's so many different stages, throughout your life where success comes into play. And, for me, I was a single mother for, a long time, right out of high school. And I didn't go back to school until, my mid to late 30s. And I finally decided that I was going to do what I wanted to do for so long and become a nurse, put myself through school. And now I have a very successful career. And, it took me that long to get there, but it's been great.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, Angie. We go through so many life transitions, and I was on the kind of the slow to the roll program for much of my career, because I was a student for so long and I worked and I had to rebuild my life a couple of different times, because of being in relationships that didn't work out. And so, it really, once you get some momentum and then you have to start over and, try and figure out how to rebuild yourself and, your financial standing. Absolutely. And figuring out how to be a single mother. There's a lot, that goes along with that. But
there is.
Yeah, I think that success again, is really about what success is going to look like to that person, because everybody's story is different.
Right.
Yeah. Not everybody has our story where we had to, start over after a divorce.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. I have something, if you guys want, I have this book. I have my book that has been published. And, I was reading today's reflection, and I thought that it was really on point about what we're talking about this podcast. Hey, you got it. Yeah, there you go. Uh-huh. Yes. So we're going to be talking about that at some point in the future. But this is just a little sneak peek of what you would be looking for in this book. And so I'm going to read this, and then I thought we could spend some time and actually talk about it. So the reflective thought of today is take a moment to look at your life in review. Each decade brings its own unique set of challenges, lessons, and growth. In our younger years, we often strive to find our identity, make our mark, and chase big dreams. Later, we find ourselves navigating relationships, building careers, raising families, or redefining our sense of purpose. And as we grow older, reflection deepens. What once seemed urgent may now feel less important, while the simple, meaningful moments rise to the surface. No matter what your age, it's worth taking a step back to reflect on where you've been, what experiences shaped you, what choices defined a turning point for you, and what did you learn from the hardest moments and the most beautiful ones in your life. Each decade tells a story of who you were, what you are, and what you're still becoming. So let's kind of maybe use that as a guide. Is that okay with everybody?
I just want to say to all of our viewers, that book is just fantastic. Congrats to Wendy on publishing that book. It's just so amazing. So if you guys have a chance, I'll post it on our website. Go check it out. Go buy it. It's like life changing. But anyway, yeah, what a good daily prompt that just ties in together our topics so well. But it's so true. Everyone's story is so different, and everyone's way of navigating life is so different. And I think I speak for a lot of people when you say you have this idea of how your life's going to go, and then something else just completely falls, takes the floor underneath you and sweeps you under the rug, and something just changes. For me, it was starting a family younger than I thought I was going to. I really thought I was going to be like further along. I thought I would have a different career. I thought I would be, in a whole different state that I am. I thought all these things. And I had this big vision for myself of success. And right now, the vision that I'm living in right now is so wonderful, and I'm so grateful for it. And for me, it's much better than anything I could have ever expected. So sometimes I think even though your life ends up a little bit different than you thought it would be, it doesn't mean that you failed some way or you're worse off. Because for me, I'm in such a great place right now. I love how I've turned out. I love the person I'm becoming. So yeah, I think that's success is definitely not, it's not ending either. I think it's always progressional. It's always changing and evolving. So that's definitely where I'm at. But yeah, what a great prompt to start us off with, Wendy. Yeah. Buy that book, everyone.
Lindsey, what are your thoughts before we deep dive too much into it?
No, I completely agree. I would say the fact that I am not where I thought I would be back then is great. I could not be happier with where I'm at. And it's not something I ever saw for myself where I'm at right now. So change is good. It's okay if you don't meet your ideas of success, because something really great can come out of not meeting those ideas.
And sometimes that can be a real motivation too. Like if you can step back and you can take a look at your life and it's not quite where you want it to be, or maybe it's just not working. Like I do believe that it's really important to be able to step back. And I think that that's really when the most growth happens. Angie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. And I think, what you just said kind of ties into, the definition of success too, because, where we were 10 years ago is not where we are today. And another 10 years is not going to be where we are right now.
Right.
And I think what we decide, when we come into situations and how we decide to handle them and how we grow from them, is the definition of success, for where, our outcomes. So.
Yeah. Yeah. We just never know where life takes us. But if you are open to opportunity, I think that says a lot about how we reinvent ourselves, how we work through those curveballs that seem to happen. how we can, build on success, because I don't think that success just really shows up. For some people, it does, but I would like to think that, most people who have success, they've had to work really hard, right? And they've had to really work through a lot of obstacles and challenges, and, like there's steps forward, steps back. And, I'd like to think that's probably what most people experience. But again, I mean, kudos to the people who, like have their plan all figured out, and how, like it just seems to work. Everything that they do, it just measures, like leaps and bounds, a journey that leads them to their success.
I think it can be really easy to also get caught up in comparing yourself to other people that look like they have it all together.
Oh,
They look like they've achieved success, especially in a certain career point, or financially, or whatever the case may be. You might compare yourself to them and say they have it all together, they're successful, and I'm not. But it's, I think it's a tricky mind space to get into, because like you said, Wendy, I think celebrating the here and now and the small successes of every day is so important. It's so easy. I know I do that a lot. Like I always compare myself to other people that I know, especially my age. And I'm, looking like, what am I doing wrong? But I think in reality, there's nothing wrong. I think everyone's just at a different point in a different spot, and it doesn't make anyone better or worse off. It's just where you are. Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I thought about to point out.
Absolutely.
Very true. So true.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me ask, because I think that this is an important question. Let's talk about who were the people who you looked up to that maybe guided you into kind of your success journey.
My big brother is a big one for me. He is an incredibly successful man, and he has this beautiful little family, and he's one of the people you were just kind of talking about, that it seems like it just rolled for him. He took it all in leaps and bounds, and I know he struggled, but I'm sure to an outsider looking in, it looks like it was just easy peasy for him. But he really taught me a lot about being diligent, and like, if you want something, you have to go do it. It's not just going to get handed to you.
Angie, what about for you? Who is that person for you? And it could be more than one person, actually.
And when I first, after my divorce, it was my kids. Honestly, it was my kids that I looked at them, and I wanted to be able to give them more and to do more. And I didn't want to be that mom who just kind of floated through life. And, how am I supposed to say, go and do your, go for your dreams, and yet I didn't go for mine.
Right.
I didn't want to be that person. So it was ultimately my kids, that I really did it for, and that kind of drove me to it. And then later in life, it was you. No, I'm serious. When I met you, and it took me a little while to meet you, but
I remember.
But now, traveling, I love traveling so much, and that's a huge part, because you had to do a lot with that.
Yeah.
And I now have this, I want to go travel. I want to go see the world, and I was really not like that before.
Isn't that interesting? So. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting backstory in within itself, how long it took for us to finally meet. True. And the first time that we met, I just started asking you like 72 questions.
Yes.
Just to kind of break the ice.
Yes, I remember sitting in the Renville bar.
That's right.
I even remember what seats we were sitting in.
Yeah, do you really? It's a small bar, so I think I remember some of that. And of course, Emma was there too.
Oh yeah, I remember. I was sweating bullets.
But in all fairness, this was one of my things. This is just a side funny story, because when I was in criminal justice, I had a coworker that, when you just talk about people who influence you in just different random ways, this guy influenced me with something. And so it was a Friday night or a Friday. It was the last day of the work week. And he comes into the office and he's just really kind of like, he's looking like he's stressed. And his name is Dale. And I was like, hey, Dale, like I go into his office, I'm young, like I'm like 22 at the time. And, like I go into his office, kind of bebopping around. And I was like, is everything okay? He's like, well, I haven't gotten the application together. I'm like, are you getting a new job? Like, are you doing something? And he's like, no. I said, application for what? Well, I have a teenage daughter. And he goes, in fact, I have two. And he goes, my teenage daughter is thinking that she is going to go out on a date tonight. And my process is that whoever my daughters date, they have to apply to, it's a job. They have to apply and fill out an application to date my daughter, and I interview them. So tonight, I'm not really prepared, and I was like, I hadn't even had kids yet, and I was like, that is ingenious. I love that idea. I'm gonna keep it in my toolbox, and I'm gonna remember it forever and ever and ever. Well, unfortunately, I had all boys. Like within the context of that plan, right? And I was just like, I was waiting for that girl, and the girl never happened. And so when my boys started getting to the age of dating, I was like, well, shoot, I don't know if I can get my boys to go along with having them apply to date them. I mean, it's a little bit different for boys. But I was like, I came up with a new strategy, and that strategy was to ask 72 questions. So consequently, Emma had to go through that. Lindsey had to go through that. Every daughter-in-law that I have, had to go through that, Holly and Ariel. And I had my boys sit down and listen to those 72 questions. Now, Ryan was, he dated a little bit before Lindsey, and I would ask those 72 questions to each one of those girls, and I'd be like, Ryan, nope, not a green light, because I would know. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you don't know what you're talking about, and I'm like, yeah, I think I do, and you're listening to it too. And so anyway, needless to say, he went through some 72 question, situations, and my boys actually did respect that. I couldn't believe that they did. And Emma got the green light, Holly got the green light, Ariel got the green light, and Lindsey got the green light. So there you go, but now there was no green light for you, Angie. It was just a good thing to do, because Emma told me that you were introverted, right? Mm-hmm. So meeting people was it was a little bit of a challenge. So when we finally made that happen, I was like, well, we'll just break the ice and we'll ask those 72 questions, right there in the Renville bar.
Yeah. And then after that, it was.
Yeah. After that, here we are. We're still at it, still friends, and still travel and buddies. All kinds of stuff. So it's interesting. So those of you that are out there, if you have daughters, maybe you should have the boys that want to date your daughters apply and fill out an application. And in the event that you have boys, come up with your 72 questions. And actually, it's not that bad. Would you guys say that? I mean, everybody's been through it.
Yeah,
no,
no,
it wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. I mean, I was, I think 16, so I was pretty scared of you, Wendy. I mean, I was sitting there kind of shaking. I was like, oh my God, I can't say the wrong thing. But give our audience, give them example of your question. Give them an example question, and what's a green light and what's a red light. I want you to dive a little bit deeper into that, just so our audience has an idea.
Okay. So let's see. This is on the fly. All right. Angie, what's your favorite color?
Pink.
And why is pink your favorite color?
It's bright. I don't know. It's bright.
Okay. And what's your least favorite color?
Yellow, actually.
And why is yellow your least favorite color?
probably a very stupid answer, but I've always looked at it as an unlucky color.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
So,
always how I felt.
so do you believe in luck then?
I do very much.
Really? Okay. So how has luck kind of found its way in your life?
Well, with my current situation, I mean, my husband that I have now, you know, my marriage, my kids, and you know where I'm at right now. You know, sitting here with you guys, I find myself very lucky.
Ages and stages.
Yeah, ages and stages. I mean, this is awesome. It's amazing. So
if you could do one thing in your life, you know, like that would just be the wow for you, what would that be?
travel to Italy.
And why Italy?
You know, I just always loved Italy. My mom, you know, was the same way. It was always on her bucket list. And it was just, you know, it's a place that is just beautiful, and I've always just wanted to go.
What's the thing that you like least?
People who are fake.
And what is it about fake people that just really turn you off?
I think that there's no time for it. You know, I think time is precious, and I think people should be real in who they are. And, you know, if I don't want to be associated with those people because my time is precious.
Get it. And what is the thing that you're the most proud of up to this point in your life?
My kids.
There you go.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, that's just a small sampling of 72 questions, you know, like, but you learn so much about a person by doing that. And sometimes the person learns a lot about themselves just by listening to it, right? You know, like lucky. I didn't even know about the luck thing.
I don't think I've ever told anyone that in my life about the yellow. About the yellow card. No one in my life.
Yeah.
Not even Emma.
Well, now we have a whole audience, you know, that knows, you know, like about yellow being an unlucky. But isn't that interesting how sometimes you just don't think about how you just don't think about it. So let's see. For me, you know, like answering the question, we're gonna switch gears back. And answering the question about who influenced me, I think that there's been a lot of people actually in my life,
absolutely,
that has influenced me. And I would totally agree with you that probably my front and center has always been my boys.
Yeah.
You know, like I was a young mother when I had Blaine. You know, like I was pregnant with that Dale story. You know, like I was pregnant. I didn't have kids yet, but I was pregnant at 22, and you know, I remember the day that he was born, my whole life changed. And I was just like, you know, my job is to help you to live your best life. And of course, you know, like when my life unfolded in good and bad ways, you know, like I would always tell people, you've probably heard this many times, that I had 6 eyes that were looking at me. 6 eyes. And you guys have, you know, like you guys have 2 eyes right now, you know, like looking at the 2 of you. But I had 6, and that was my reason. It's always been my reason, you know, like for not giving up or not giving in. So my boys are, you know, my heroes, you know, they're my grounding. They're my heroes. They're my reason. But I've had people that I've looked up to in my career. Friends, you know, like Angie, you're one of those friends, you know, like that I really, really admire and look up to. And, you know, like friends are so important. I've had, you know, interesting. I've actually looked at motivational speakers, you know, as people that have guided me in some of my more darker hours. You know, like I remember listening to Brian Tracy and Tony Robbins, and you know, like some of those big names, you know, like that I would just and you know, like Les Brown, I really liked him, you know, like back in when he was active in the public speaking motivational world, because they just said things in just such a way that it was just like it kind of helped me to, you know, like have that power to move on. You know, I've had teachers in my life shout out to teachers in America that, like have challenged me. And actually, this is a story. This is this is not a good story. This is about a person who influenced me in not a good way. And that was my guidance counselor in high school. Like I remember meeting this guy for the first time when I was in 9th grade. And he, I struggled in reading. It took a lot of years to realize that I struggled with dyslexia, but I really struggled with reading. And I remember him telling me that I wasn't going to do anything in my life. Like I just needed to get through school, and that was going to be pretty much it. He suggested that I go into the secretarial program. And let's see, Lindsey and Emma, probably Holly, anybody who knows me, I am not secretarial material. I struggle so much with that. I mean, I was the only one. Not only did I struggle in reading, I was the only one that got a D in typing class because I could.
But now you wrote a book, so
yeah, I know. I
know.
Woo! See, so you're like, yeah. So I mean, that guy just, like, what you're going to size me up as a 9th grader, and you're going to tell me what my life is going to amount to. It's a good thing that I'm a little strong-willed, because I use that as a motivation to not let anybody, put me in a corner or a box or define life for me. So probably not the best story, but it's an honest story. And so anyhow.
But, and then you can look at it as, look how it's pushed you, to go, to go further. So it's not necessarily, a terrible thing, because it's motivated you to,
yeah, well, that's true.
Be someone you like,
yeah,
just what people think you should be.
Yeah. Which I think that maybe all of us could step outside of that box and say, I reserve the right to define my story. Right.
Exactly.
So Emma, what about you? Who was your person?
First of all, whoever guidance counselor is, I hope they're in a secretary position. I hope they lost their job, and I hope they're watching this, and I hope they just know that you're not only a doctor, an author, a CEO. You did everything you could have asked for and more. So that just makes you so mad. I'm so happy for you though. For me, mine was my mom, obviously. I just watched my mom go through a lot of adversity growing up, and she just handled it with so much grace. And she was just always so kind. Like everyone that knew me, and I heard it all the time. Like, your mom is so sweet. She's so kind. She's always such a great listener.
True story.
And so no matter what was going on, she just held her head so high. She was always a good person to everyone. She's always kind, and she was so hardworking. I watched her be pregnant through nursing school, with raising several kids, after a divorce, trying to get remarried, like all the things all at one time. She just handled it with so much grace. So I was like, if she can do that, like I can get my life together. So whenever I feel like I can't do things, I kind of remember that and just how she handled it. So my mom is hands down for me. My mom.
Love you. And
love you.
There's so many moms out there, and you guys are moms. Think about, what you are representative of for your children. It's a little bit different for boys, because I don't know if I really get a lot of feedback from my boys, but I love my daughters, my daughter-in-laws, I love them. And you know what? I just want to say that you guys are my reason too, right? I don't want to build this legacy and just have it done after I'm no longer here or I'm no longer able to work. I want this to go on, and you guys get to kind of go on and carry that torch too. So, I have a few more eyes in my daughters that are looking at me, and I hope that, I am that good person for them, because I love each and every one of them. They bring something unique to the table. I love my daughters. I love, the fact that you guys were all green lights.
Thank God. I was really nervous that I wasn't a green light at the time. I'm glad I turned out to be a green light.
Hey, I'm also thankful that you were a green light mother-in-law. Because,
Yes. Yes.
That doesn't happen
Woo!
very often.
For sure.
there's a lot of
Lindsey.
people who do not get along with their mother-in-laws.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, let's go on a trip together. Yeah, let's go, let's
Let's
go
hang
get
out.
pedicures. Let's go shopping. I love hanging out with her.
Yes.
So,
Yes. It's so rare.
yes.
Yes, it is.
So
Big win.
Lindsey, like that brings me to, this is kind of a sidebar, but it's kind of a fun sidebar, like what I met you. Well, I came down to Osage Beach. Todd and I came to Osage Beach to visit you and Ryan for the first time. And we met your family, your parents. And what did we do that day that, I thought this is definitely, I had already asked the 72 questions, but hands down, when we spent that night together, hanging around, going down to the loop, I was like, this girl, she's a green light. Do you remember what we did?
I was pretty drunk. So.
Oh, okay.
I do remember though that you guys were just really inclusive, which I like. You didn't segregate yourselves or anything. You were right there with us and my family, and just immediately it felt like we all came together.
Yeah. I mean, that was a great thing. So I'm glad that we all, are inclusive. So let's go back. And there's some questions on here. What experiences in your life shaped you? I kind of talked about, my guidance counselor.
Yeah.
That was the first, the early on, but what experiences shaped you to who you are today?
I mean, mine's pretty fresh. I would say in the last 10 years, I've done a lot of moving around, just trying to figure out who I am and where I want to be and what I want to do. There's been a lot of change in my life recently, just trying to figure it all out and trying to make the right choices along the way. So that for me is, I don't know, my biggest part is just finding out who I am and what who I'm meant to be, and still trying to figure that out. But yeah, that's my answer.
I had a lot of really negative experiences that shaped me at first. But I would say the positive experiences were each time one of my nieces or nephews were born. And then obviously when my own little baby girl joined me, that was the biggest shaping. I mean, that was the moment everything changed, and I was like, all right, this is who I need to be and what I need to do. So all the kids.
All the kids. What about for you, Angie?
I think it goes back to, my first marriage, and I was so young. I was 19, 20 when I got married, and I, thought settling down was where I should be, where I needed to be. And obviously things didn't happen that way. And I, once, I got a divorce, things just changed, and you learn so much. You learn so much about who you are and where you want to be. And, that, there are things out there that you should, really strive for. And I think, those things, and even though they were negative, led me to where I am now. And I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't.
Yeah. So. I would have to agree with that. I think that I learned the most through the negative experiences in my life. Yeah. Certainly going through a divorce, it cut me down to my knees. It really did. It's such a hard process. And when I work with people, even today, I just say, I remind them that divorce is not an event, it's a process. And everybody's story is just a little bit different. But in my experience, I honestly felt like it took 10 years, to have some firm footing in my universe, financially, emotionally, relationally, probably mostly financial, financial consequences of divorce. But I remember that when I, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, I went through 2 divorces. So I'm in my 3rd marriage. I was very, very young when, just like you, Angie, I was very young when I got married to my first husband. And there's a big, huge backstory. In fact, it's probably a soap opera. But anyhow, like I just didn't know this person, and they just were not, doing well in their life. And I was so young, and I had my oldest son. And so I looked at my life at 23, and I was just like, is this the best that life has to offer? Because, like there were a lot of problems, a lot of secrets, a lot of things that were bigger than me, at that time. And so I got divorced, and like there were lots and lots of problems, like within the context of the post-divorce experience. And then I got remarried, had, like my youngest 3 sons. One was a stillborn, but I have two sons from that marriage, and that didn't work out either. And that was also very life changing, and I just gut wrenching. And you have kids. That's why my big thing is that when it comes to ending a long-term relationship and you have children, you have to be 110% certain that that's the right choice, and you have to know why you're making that choice. But it wasn't easy. And, my solution every time I had those start overs, go back to school. Like I had my bachelor's degree, and with my first divorce, I went back and I got my master's. And then when my second divorce, I went back and I got my doctorate. Like, to me, even though my life was a hot mess, my career and being able to educate myself, I knew that was going to be a way for me. So anyhow.
You did way better than me. Every time I went through a major breakup, I got a tattoo and a puppy.
Well, there you go.
Every time.
Everyone internalizes different.
Yeah. I love that, though.
Lindsey, I love you so much. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is so great.
A tattoo and a puppy. I love it, But you know what?
That's got to be a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that sometimes, like everybody's journey is just a little bit different, about what they need to kind of heal themselves, because healing is the big part of that. What about jobs? Did jobs, like influence you at all?
I had my first job when I was 12. At my dad's restaurant. He paid me under the table. Obviously, I didn't get real paychecks. I was, 16, but it taught me, how to, earn what I wanted, and, never take anything for granted that I did have, that I could, that I could buy anyway. So yeah, I would say that was huge. Yeah.
Yeah. What about for the two of you? Emma, Lindsey?
I've had the same job since I was 18, so hard to say. But I was lucky that I found what I love, right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
My story's a little different. In high school, that's actually where I met Steven, Wendy's youngest son. We worked at the same gas station in town because there's only 3-4 jobs in the whole town. So that was one of them. So we just happened to pick the same one. That one definitely taught me the importance of a dollar, making a buck, working really hard just to make something like minimum wage. It's really eye-opening. After that, it was college and the big dreams of I wanted to be an engineer at first, and then I took one calculus 2 class, and I said no thank you to that dream. That died very quickly. And after that, I've always loved kids, working with kids, being an educator. So I went to school to be a teacher, and I loved it. I student taught 4th grade. I subbed a lot, and I loved it, but it wasn't my passion. And honestly, I wanted to make a little bit more money for myself for what the job pays. I really think teachers it's one of the hardest jobs in the whole world, especially
Yes.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to get paid a lot more. It's an um, incredibly, incredibly difficult and rewarding job, but, um, I don't know. So I veered off after college into different roles, and I eventually did an agricultural role, which I really loved, but it was a really toxic work environment. I've talked about this in past episodes, but the pay was wonderful and I was good at it, but just the environment was really bad for my mental health, and for lots of people there. And eventually, around that time, I started my family, so had to consider my options, and now I work from home, and it's the best ever. So I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity. I know not everyone gets the opportunity, but it's really good. But yeah, a lot of different change ups for me. I'm still finding out my place in my career, but I love what I do right now. So.
I mean, as far as careers are concerned, like I shared in past podcasts that I ended up building a career in criminal justice, in corrections, in forensics. And that was a very, very difficult and challenging career because it was so heavily male dominated and not a lot of women at that time worked in that industry. Although, like there were some things that were happening, like at that time, there was a lot of movement where women were starting to go in and work in that industry as well. But I just really had to fight, like for my respect. And I would have to say that, like in criminal justice, there's a fair share of toxicity that is in that environment. You certainly work in criminal justice too, as a correctional nurse, and quite a bit of toxic stuff, like that goes on, not only with the population, but sometimes, like with your coworkers and so on. But yeah, I would have to say that those were really kind of the influences. I shared in a previous podcast too that I wanted to be a lawyer and a politician. Obviously, I'm not, but like I am, or I have been a politician because I was on the school board, so that's an elected position, and that was challenging, in a small school district and area, but yeah, I didn't make it to the lawyer, but I love the law. Like I know I love the law, but I totally understand the limitations of the law. Sometimes it seems like it's not fair or just, but that's because there's limitations, but I still have a huge passion for law. And so I work in that capacity now with patients who are going through very, very difficult and strenuous divorces, that, like there's a lot of dynamics, parental alienation, a lot of contested issues, like, because I know the law very well and I know the limitations of the law. So I do a lot with helping individuals maneuver through that transitional phase in their life. And I'd like to think that I provide guidance, help, support, because it's so hard. But all right, let's talk about our families for a minute. I know, Emma, you said you and Lindsey actually both talked about how, your influences were family members. What about other people in your family that were a part of your process? What did you learn from them?
I mean, I was really strongly influenced by the fact that my parents are still together after 40 some odd years, and that's an incredible feat anymore.
Yeah.
My sister, who went through her own 2 divorces, that was influential on the opposite side of the spectrum for me. It taught me a lot about divorce. And then my 2 brothers are both, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, living their best lives. So it's been a lot of good from my family, I would say. More good than bad. Even my sister's negative experiences had something to teach me.
I come from a really big family. My mom has a lot of siblings, and my dad has some siblings as well. So I had a lot of people to look up to. And a family so big, there's a lot of people to learn from as well. I think there's a lot of different types of people in my family. So I got to see growing up, different pathways that they took and how it worked out for them. So I think it was really valuable to me to see which decisions, result in one way or another, and who I wanted to shape my life like more, like who I wanted to, look up to a little bit more, and what I wanted to avoid. So I think that was important for me as well, to watch people maybe make some mistakes and kind of say, okay, maybe that's not something that I would personally do, and maybe I'd navigate my life a little bit different. Which is not to say good or bad for them. It's just, it was nice to have people to just, look up like above me and just say, okay, this is what happened, and this is, good or bad for me, how I want to shape things. So, it's hard to pinpoint a specific person just because I have such a big a family, but, just in general, I would just say I just learned a lot from watching a lot of people growing up.
Yeah. How about for you, Angie?
I think Emma hit it on the nose. I totally agree. I mean, we had some, or I should say, I had some, really successful siblings, and then I've had it on the very opposite end of the spectrum too, where not so much. And watching that, you learn a lot. You really, really do, and kind of where you want to go and where you want to be and where you never ever want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. And I'm sure that there are so many people that are out there at different spaces in their life. And if the one thing that I would say is, if you don't feel like you're in a good spot, step back, take a look at that and figure out, like where you want to go to kind of affect change, and maybe turn that around for the better part of you, and stuff. So for me, like, I had a small family. I mean, I have lots of siblings. My funny story. Okay. My mom had one sister, and my dad was an only child. So I actually have only one aunt and one uncle. And I used to tell my mom and my aunt, like, because they had 7 kids each. I was just like, are you guys out here to populate, like Iowa or what? Like, I don't get it, but I do love my extended family. I know that for my grandpa and grandma Cook, family was everything to them. So we had a lot of family events, and so we grew up as a very close and connected family. It's gotten a little harder as we've gotten older, like we've have kids, and we're in different spaces and places and different parts of the Midwest. But I have to say that I love my family. My parents were married for 63 years before my mom passed.
that is amazing.
And that,
That's awesome.
like, just like what Lindsey was saying, like, that is, like an influence. Of course, when I was going through my challenges, on this more serious side, I'd be like, what's wrong with me? Because, like, this isn't the way that I know life to be. And then, after I got my second one, I was like, hey, I'm taking a hit for the, like, my brothers and sisters, so they don't have to go through that experience. Like, I'm going for almost that 50%, but I stopped it too. And I'm in my 3rd marriage. So I'm, like, I'm good. And we're going to be celebrating 20 years this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. So,
wow, that's so awesome.
I mean, it just,
so awesome.
but I would say, like, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was, like, he worked for the FAA, and he was an air traffic controller, and then he became an automation specialist and was in management when he retired. But, like, I just saw he was the provider of our family. So, like, his work ethic, he was a very hard worker. He did what he needed to do for his family. I think that I see that a lot in how I have lived my life. My kids have always been my center. But like my grandmother, she grew up in the Depression. Like my granny, you remember Granny? Her name was Emma too.
That's right.
And she grew up in the Depression, and she came from a very poor family, very poor family. And so I learned a lot from her, as I was growing up. Both of my grandmothers actually worked, and one was a school teacher, believe it or not. She taught the deaf and the blind. And she was neither deaf nor blind, but she knew how to speak fluent sign language, and she knew how to read Braille, and she would teach disabled individuals. My yeah. And my granny, like she worked in the retail for J.C. Penney's in Des Moines. I don't even think, there's probably not very many J.C. Penney's left, but maybe a few.
So funny thing. I think it was my great grandfather when they came over. Him and another gentleman were the ones that started the first J.C. Penney.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this side note,
kind
sorry,
of, yeah.
keep going.
Hey, that's why
I did not know that.
it's a connection.
funny.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Like how that happens.
Yeah.
Like just another weird connection.
Yeah, there you go.
And actually, my granny, she knew Sam Walton because he worked in the Des Moines J.C. Penney's, and he ended up getting fired from J.C. Penney's, and then look at what happened to him. So you just never know.
Who's Sam Walton? Can you fill me in?
Oh, well, he's the founder of Walmart.
Oh,
And Sam's
okay. I didn't
Club.
know that. Cool.
I guess.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Got it.
So
Fun
she
fact.
knew him. She was his coworker, and I was just like,
Funny.
wow, but anyhow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So you just never know
Interesting.
where the journey is gonna take you, and so, yeah. All right, let's see. Next question. What did you learn from the hardest moments of your life? Ooh, that's a good one. All right, Lindsey, you're going to start us off. What did you learn from the hardest moments of your life?
To be careful who you associate yourself with. That was a big one. Sometimes love is not enough. Yeah, that's mostly just be careful who you associate yourself with. Even if, you consider someone a really good friend, but their friends aren't, you should probably stay away from that person. Because you're going to end up in bad situations 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. True story. Emma, what about you?
I would say when people show you who they are, believe them. Good, bad, or indifferent. Believe them when they show you exactly who they are. The second would be that I'm a lot more capable than I give myself credit for. I have a lot more durability and a lot more strength and resilience than I give myself credit for. So that's my big two.
How about you, Wendy?
Oh, me? My big thing, and I share this, with people who I work with, you're stronger than you know yourself to be. And I've certainly gone through that. And I've questioned that, there have been some times, even recently in the last year, where that was really of question, I was just like, nope, I'm not stronger than what I know myself to be. This is my ass kicking moment, and I'm not gonna get through that. But thank goodness I had, a incredibly supportive, support system, family, boys, daughters, friends, husband, so many people, that helped me through, sometimes. And I think that that's important to know that, that even in those moments of question, darkness, weakness, your support system is something that's really, really important. What about for you, Angie?
That was going to be my exact answer. I am.
See, that's why we are who we are, right?
That was my exact answer. Yeah, I'm stronger than I thought I could be. Having a mother pass away and 2 brothers, and all by 30, and yeah, you take a look back and you wonder how the heck you ever got through it. But yeah, you're definitely stronger than you think you are.
Yeah. And that's that. There's nothing, there's something to say about that, and one of the things that, like from the psychology world, we say, oh, that's neuroplasticity, it's like, like we mold and we shift and we change, and, like that's just part of our neurological makeup. But I think it's also a part of that resilience that you talked about, Emma, and that you referenced, Lindsey, that I'm pretty sure that there's got to be a resilience gene. We haven't discovered it yet. I mean, it's more of a construct that everybody knows what it is, but I'm pretty sure there's some kind of biological aspect to it that we haven't come around to knowing yet. Because I've met with a lot of people that have been in similar situations, and like there are some people that like can work through it, and there are other people that succumb to it, so and I wouldn't like, and I don't believe that people that succumb to challenges or difficulties or transitions or curveballs or whatever you want to call them, they're not resilient. I think that that's why like I think that there's a biological piece to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree. I do have to make a correction,
For sure.
My youngest brother died when I was in my 40s. I have to try and remember how old I am now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of, like the tough things, like that we have to work through. Who do you want to be in your future? What do you want to be?
Pretty much the same, but I want my farm to be done and another kid.
There you go.
And I'd like to be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 goals. My
Yeah,
farm to be self-sustaining, another baby, and staying home with my kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lindsey, let me just share with you. We have a little bit of a hobby farm going. We're 20 years into it. It's still evolving. But you can do it. You can do it. Yes. I believe in you. What about for you, Em?
Similar. Yeah. I mean, I think I want to be maybe a healthier, more, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the same. I mean, it's hard to say because I just know it's going to change as soon as I say it, but a healthier person to myself, a nicer person to myself, a good mom, a good partner, a good friend. I just want to be someone that people turn to and remember as kind and helpful, and that's all I can ask for.
Angie, what about you?
I'm going to stay on that same train. I just want to be the best version of myself that I am, and continue to, just to surround myself with good people and love my kids and my grandkids. And I really hope to be that grandma that my grandkids say to their parents, "Hey, Mom, can I go over to Grandma's house? I really want to go over to Grandma's house. Can I go there?" Like every day. So hopefully that's it. Hopefully that's where I want to be.
What's your zodiac? What is your zodiac sign? This is just totally random.
I'm the same as you, Scorpio.
No, I'm
You're
Sagittarius.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right, because you're at the end of November. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Emma and I are Sagittarius. Oh, Scorpio. Yeah,
Scorpio.
Like
I'm Scorpio.
fun from Nana's. She's a GG. I'm a Nana. So we're sticking with that story. No grannies here.
No,
no grannies.
Lindsey, what sign are you?
Cancer.
Oh yeah.
Cancer.
Okay.
Wow.
We should do a podcast on that.
We should.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
It's different.
We should.
I think that would be an awesome. And actually, I mean, this is just a little bit of a sidebar, but zodiac signs really do fit. Like our destinies and like who we are and how we do things, and says a lot about us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it really does.
All right. Let's see. What do you remember most clearly about each decade of your life? Ooh. All right. So let's see. I guess I'm the senior one, so I have a lot of decades, but like, okay, so let's go with Lindsey first. So you had your teenage years, your 20s, and you're in your 30s. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you remember most clearly about every decade of your life?
This one's gonna make me sound terrible, but I was just a god awful person in my teens. Just terrible. My 20s were better, but I was still, to be completely honest, a disaster. My 30s have been the polar opposite, and they've been so great, and things are much, much better here.
Which I mean, like, I think that it's fair to say that in your 30s, like, at least now, this is when, things settle down. There's a lot of clarity in your 30s. You're building, like, you're building your life. You have basic things, like, kind of set in motion in your 30s. And so you're just kind of in that active building stage. So whatever's happened in your teenage years and your 20s, it got you to your 30s. And
Yeah.
like it.
I will say on a positive note for my 20s, that's when I met like my real friends, my very good friends, my lifelong friends. So that was definitely life changing.
And that's a good thing. Thank goodness
Mm-hmm.
for all of those good friends out there in our lives.
Yes.
What about for you, Emma? You're 20, you got your teens and your 20s.
My teens were pretty mellow. I mean, I went to a rural high school where not a lot happened. Um, Not a lot to report there. I feel like I was a pretty mellow teenager. My mom can maybe attest to that or maybe disagree. I don't know. But I feel like overall I was pretty mellow. And then in my 20s so far, it's been a little bit of a jumble of just trying to figure things out and trying to establish myself as an adult and get kind of the groundwork laid out, for certain things. So, still work in progress, I would say. That's about all I've got so far.
And that's probably so true about 20s now. Like, I went to a continuing education conference probably about 5 years ago. And one of the things that they were talking about is just, like, kind of the onboarding to adulthood. And I left that conference, and the one takeaway that I had was that in your 20s, you're in the evolving years.
Mm-hmm.
You're definitely adulting, but you don't have it all figured out. Some people do, but most don't. Like, there's a lot of change, transition. Like, you're going frontwards and backwards and sideways. Like, for you, Emma, you've done a lot of traveling, like, to different states, and just to kind of see where you wanted to land. Mm-hmm. And definitely still in those evolving years. So Angie, you're in your 40s. So what would you say? You got 4 decades.
Holy Hannah.
You right?
Yeah. To be quite honest, I was kind of a little bit of a rebellious teenager as well. And into my teens, into my 20s, I had kids. My mother passed away, and then a brother passed away, and so that's what I remember about my 20s. Just everything, just boom, boom, boom. Mm-hmm. And then my 30s is kind of when it started to go uphill. I went back to school and remarried, and now my 40s is just kind of been establishing my career and kind of even going.
Yeah.
So
busy.
Busy.
But I mean, it's
Extremely
very
busy.
busy. I mean, for those of you who are in your 40s, oh my goodness,
so
like, it is such a busy time. Very, very, very busy decade.
Yes, it's extremely, like, my most busiest decade for sure. And then plus, grandbaby to add in there too. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Which has been a godsend.
Yeah,
sure.
baby
So.
AJ. Yeah, and baby T. Like, we got to see both of them last weekend. Both baby T and baby AJ, great. All in the same place.
Yes,
that was so a lot of fun.
So much fun.
That was. Well, let's see. I'm the 50s representative. So I would say that in my teens, I really didn't do, like, I didn't want to get into trouble. I was very, very driven. I had a plan in my life. consequently, it's really hard for other people to plan, Emma and Angie, because I am such a planner. But I had a plan in my life, and I was very, very focused. I didn't get into trouble when I was in high school, but I also lost a sister, when I was in middle school, and that was very, very difficult. It was kind of like one of those nuclear bombs that exploded in our little family. But went to college. I graduated because of, like that guidance counselor. I graduated from high school a year early,
Nice.
went into college a year early, ran into a few things. I referenced that last week when I talked about being a victim of a major crime, and had to rebuild from there. But in my 20s, like I was married, I thought I was doing everything. I was building my career. Things kind of came to a halt with the marriage, but I continued to build my career. Went back to college, worked on my master's. Then in my 30s, another, upheaval with a second divorce, unfortunately. Still going to school, still building a career, making things happen. Was very, very busy because, like I was a very active mother. Teenage years, were just, you were just so busy with going to school. I was busy going to school, working full time, being a mom, going to, like all the sporting events, doing all of those different kinds of things. And in my 50s, becoming a grandmother, forgot, like my oldest son, got married, had some babies, and became a young, like Nana. Sorry. I broke my own rule, didn't I? I owe myself.
You owe yourself $5.
Yeah, I owe myself $5. I became a Nana in my 40s. In my 50s, it's about career, friends, adult children, grandbabies, like travel, I mean, and in this life, this is the only time in my life that I could actually just focus on my career. Like I didn't have upheavals in my personal life, and I wasn't in school. So I can tell you the 50s are kind of like my rockin' time, as far as getting some things going. But that's it. You guys want to hear something that's totally random about success, because, success is different for everybody. But here's just kind of a funny sidebar about what success is. I remember when Todd and I were younger and we had our kids, like at home, and we would go to Duluth, and we'd like to go camping in Duluth, but we didn't have a whole lot of money because he was going through divorce recovery. I was going through divorce recovery. And the only thing that we could afford was to go camping in a tent. Now, I have no qualms about tents. I mean, we did that. That's the only way we could afford to go camping. But oh my goodness, like it was a lot, cooking over open campfires and sleeping in tents. And if there was rain, and so Todd and I used to just sit at our little campfire with our tents, and sometimes it was raining and we'd had our umbrellas, and the boys were living their best life because they were playing in the rain. And I would see all of these campers around us, and I'd be like, babe, that's success. If we can get a camper and we can come up to Duluth and we can be in a camper, that is our definition at that point of success. And so guess what? We're going to Duluth, and you're going to Duluth too with us. And so is Emma, like next week, and we have campers. So no tents, like unless you really want one. But like that was just one of those things. And there are times when there are trips that are just tent appropriate, and I will totally do that. But yeah, like even today I would still do that. But it's just the Duluth story. I was just thinking about that this morning. It's like, as I was getting our campers ready, like to take the pilgrimage up to Duluth for next weekend, I was like, we've arrived. And I came in and I told Todd, I said, we're so successful. Like we have our camper and we're going to Duluth. So anyway, kind of a funny story. So I don't know. Is there any last thoughts? I mean, just kind of a fun sidebar, just general conversation about life, success, like where we've been, things that have influenced. Everybody has their own story. And if there's one thing that I would invite our audience to do is just spend some time, sit back and reflect on, like some of those things that have been a part of your success story. I think that every person can find that their life has been successful in one way or another. And, again, like the whole part about our podcast is helping people, like to be inspired to live their best life, find, like that happy, healthy part of what makes life work for you. But we so very much so enjoy our audience. I just want to kind of put out a shout out to some of our followers. We have people that are following us in Kansas, Missouri, Minnesota, obviously, where this is kind of being originated out of. We have Connecticut followers, New York followers. Like we have some followers in the Dakotas, both South Dakota and North Dakota. So and Iowa. How can we forget Iowa? Oh my goodness. Cannot forget Iowa. But so thankful for everybody who's tuning in and supporting us in our podcast venture. You can see that we all have our little merch on, like we have hats and we have shirts and we have sweatshirts and, we are so excited to be a part of this growing and building community. Emma, or Lindsey, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think we covered it.
No, I think it was a good conversation. Again, find our website. We're going to put up some merch pretty soon. Get your cute sweatshirt or hat or t-shirt. More to come. Thanks for tuning in. We're so happy to be here with you guys. Feel free to email us if you have any stories or questions you want answered, and we'd be happy to talk about them on our next episode.
Or a topic to share.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a topic. Yeah.
Topic to share. Until next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Ages and Stages. If this conversation resonated with you, share it with a friend who might need it too. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube for more behind-the-scenes moment and updates between episodes. Wherever you are in life, your stage matters, and we're so glad you're here. We'll see you next time.